art bracket, don't ever send me money, imposters everywhere bracket. That's fucked up, right? Like, I'm out there actually making an effort trying to stop the fucking scams, and everyone else is like, oh, fucking that Richard, yeah, he's a scammer.
Call it a scam, nobody really cares. We can tell you the only one that ain't prepared. Oh yes, I'ma be a millionaire. 5, a couple trillion shares. Oh no, I ain't getting wrecked again. Richard Hart, he got us set to win. We're a family, we all the best of friends. We ain't a cult, man, just call us Hexicans. ICOs, pump and dumps, they always try to take you. Buy low, sell high, I'm tired of your fake news. You need a token, you broken.
What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a fantastic day.
Bang, bang. Welcome to the Vets and Crypto Show. I'm Vets. That is Mr. axisALiVE. And we have a special guest today. The man, the myth, the legend, Sonny D. What's up, man? Welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Hey, glad to be here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey.
First time streaming with Sonny. It's a pleasure and an honor. You were kind of loud back when last summer when everything was crashing and there was some interesting stuff happening in the Atropa ecosystem, and you took it upon yourself to open your own Telegram room, Sonny's Pub, I remember, and try to educate people on what was going on. And it was called, I would say you could call that time period in the history of Pulse Chain the Great Chase, because everybody was trying to figure out what the hell was going on and chasing all these like random coins that was launching everywhere. So that's my initial experience with learning about Sonny.
That's a pretty good summary. The pub, we definitely started. That's been a few years. I came in kind of after Safe Moon over on BSC, so got good at just trading shit coins, swing trading up and down, getting out. I never held anything. Did a little bit of SAC over here, so I had that, and like that's kind of when I started to see things more on the liquidity side, because I had massive bags and things and no exits, right? So I started kind of making my own exits, and that's when I saw Atropa early on, seeing that liquidity network that had been made by the 414 wallet really was what intrigued me and why I got into a lot of those tokens. And for me, I don't know, I see things in pictures. Like people hear me say it's all math all the time. I can't actually show my work, but seeing these pools and seeing kind of just almost in bubbles, but as a picture of how the energy flows from one to one, like that was what got me really deep into Atropa. Yeah,
I think I have the same propensities as you in that I'm more an intuitive with LP at this point. As a kid, I was better at art, language, and science, and not so good at the abstraction of math. But as an adult, because of my interest in crypto, it actually lent itself to me a little more. I learned a little bit more about percentage moves on the price chart, which is kind of where it started, and then you start measuring these things in relation to each other, and it helped me kind of develop a better understanding of like some of the deeper math. However, a lot like you, I also find myself looking at these things more like a circuit, like an electrical circuit, that energy moves between different pair bonds. And you see that everywhere in nature. And one of the kind of like the iconic things that I've heard recently is the concept of how Atropa is trying to create this perpetual motion machine, or like actually it's like applied physics to market making in a way, because all of these things are literally, yes, they're digital, but blockchain assets actually have physical properties in a digital space, which is unique to blockchain assets, unlike like a picture on your phone, which can be copied, duplicated, replicated, audio files, text files. Blockchain assets are once the code is laid, there's certain parameters by which makes them act and appear more like a physical entity in the world. And so because of those properties, it does so happen that the way that these energy flows between these pairs can be analyzed, observed, and tweaked in ways that can give these assets price positive outcomes. And so I think like being able to talk with you about this, somebody who intuitively understands this stuff, maybe this could be a really good conversation to help the community understand the implications of all of this.
Yeah, definitely. And like, just for seeing things in pictures, right? Like when I look at Pulse Chain, I see Pulse Chain reflective of all of crypto. Like it's just a mini crypto, all of it. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, everything, right? And when I look at Atropa, I see it as a mini Pulse Chain, right? And then anything built on top of that is like you're just kind of recreating the entire thing over and over.
Oh,
And
do you mean like a hologram where like it's the same thing encapsulated inside of itself?
or just like a um, almost like the eggs, like the Russian eggs, where you get the little one and then the little ones and the little one, the little ones and the little one. Like they're just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Like the Japanese figures, like you pop one
yeah,
open, it's the same thing inside but smaller. Pop that
right.
open, it's the same. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I'm tracking now. I'm kind of seeing what you're seeing.
So
Can you
like
elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah, so like Pulse Chain's base is it is arbitrage, right? So if you take Pulse and you pair it to Ethereum and Stablecoin, eventually in those two pools there will be a price disparity and someone will arbitrage it for profit. So like Pulse Chain literally needs no one to ever trade it other than these arbitrage bots, right? And they're just taking profit, but they're moving money around. And their trading adds a little quarter fee down into LP, right? Like it's just rebuilding this whole thing because of having these multiple pools.
Yeah.
And
So I think one time way I describe this for people is what Sonny's trying to say is that when there's like, let's say there's a pulse versus die pair, and then there's another pulse versus die pair. They're both pulse versus die. One of them's like a higher fee tier than the other one, so they're two separate pools. They both have their own separate charts. They both require economic energy to flow in and out of them to make the price chart move. But what Sonny's saying is that in order for the price to be the same on both pools, even though they're the same exact assets paired together, there has to be a bot that comes in and rebalances the pricing across those two pools. So, for example, if you go execute an order and it's going to find you the best deal. So if it's 10% cheaper on this side than it is on this side, when you execute your order, it's going to tap this pool first. If your order's big enough, it's going to tap both pools and bring them to equilibrium to give you the most coins that you can for your dollar. And this activity of these bots coming in here and rebalancing this network is what shifts liquidity from like an energy, like a chain or a circuit of energy, and it's always moving like this parallel. But this is not a zero sum game. And what Sonny's going to allude to a little bit here is how instead of it just being a zero sum game where the arbitrage bots loops like this, because there's this burnt liquidity web or like naturally coins die off, there's a floor price that rises up like this over time as that rebalancing occurs, and it actually spirals up just like our Milky Way galaxy spirals through space and time.
and that's what happens definitely. That's why we have all the farms are in that V1 pool because that's adding to the burnt liquidity rather than giving those rewards to the people.
Oh, you mean because PulseX is getting bought and burnt, and so then as that gets bought and burnt, that unit is then becoming more scarce, and then that creates like a positive price momentum. Correct? Is that right? What by saying that?
Well, the dead wallet then is collecting the fees, so it collects and makes its LP bigger, so that it's ultimately making more fees. But just going back a little bit and zooming out for anyone here, if you take like two exchanges and for Americans, say Coinbase and Robinhood, and you load both of them up and you go and try and buy Bitcoin, you'll have two different prices. And you can legitimately buy one at the cheaper price, send it to the other wallet and sell it. Now, normally it doesn't work so well because of the fees, but like that's the basis of arbitrage. It's just you have the same asset in two different apps or two different pools or two different whatever. You buy one cheaper and sell it in the other one.
Thoughts, vets? Is this making sense to you, sir?
Yes, it is. I've just been deep diving. As I posted, I linked Pulse Trends rigs.service spaces. His first one like 6 days ago is very informative. Everybody should go back. Like this is one of those things. that you're not going to, like, this might be a fire hose for a lot of people, but just take it in and go back and rewatch the first bonded liquidity, play back that spaces from 6 days ago. And I swear to God, the light bulbs are going to start going off for everybody and clicking, and this is going to make sense. And the absolute bullishness of this entire ecosystem, the plumbing that's underneath, there's so much more to it. And I can attest to, like, you know, Axis, what he was saying as well with Sonny's Pub in the beginning a few months back. Like, I camped out there for at least a couple weeks in the voice chat, and like was just taking it all in, didn't know what a lot of things were and meant, but as different people who did understand things were explaining things, you know, it started to connect the dots and make sense. And so I highly recommend, and I'll post the Telegram link to check out Sonny's Pub on Telegram for sure.
Yeah, it's something. It's definitely good to remember that if you're new to this stuff, you know, you're gonna hear a lot of things. The best thing you can do is just listen, and like the more you come back to this, and the more you're finding yourself in the space, learning and educating yourself, the more that this stuff's gonna click. Because you might pick up nuggets here and there, but you don't know how to connect them together. But eventually, it's all gonna make sense. You just got to stick with it and try to pick up the pieces where you can.
And, you know, being said on that, like the great thing about pulse chains is cheap, right? So like the only way you can really learn is experience, and you can go throw 1,000 pulse with something else, you know, it's 10 cents or whatever into an LP and just actually watch the math, because it doesn't matter if you put in $1 million or $1. From when you enter, if those both enter at the same time in an LP, they're both getting their same percentage of the cut. So their math is actually both the same. It's only a dollar sign thing that changes.
Yeah, token A for token B. In that regard. So as we go down the rabbit hole, you have, I guess, if we can just a brief outline of the ecosystem. So ultimately, first, what would you start off with first? Like just creating A1A? I mean, there was a lot of things learning about the contracts. Like, it didn't always work out. Some people would just screw others and not keep their word as far as sharing supply and then burning it. Did that take a while to develop those relationships and trust?
So yeah, once I kind of just started messing around with LPs on Pulse Chain, I started seeing that they were growing at an exponential rate that was much more than just LP fees, right? The 0.25%. And it was basically people that had gotten these free airdrops dumping their tokens into my pool and selling it with high price impact and just taking it for pennies, right? So like ultimately what they were doing is putting those tokens into that pool, not getting all their money because it was arbitraging through all these other pools, and then leaving all those tokens in that pool and arbitraging it to the other pools gave all these new tokens that are now in the pool more value. So it started just this kind of snowball, right? And it was like all of a sudden there's a chart that's alive, and the more people that are selling into it, the more people that are doing this thing. And when I came up with A1A, I was like, I should run an arbitrage bot. And I was like, like I don't really run bots. Like I'm just a swing trader. I'm a super manual guy. I just watch the chart, trade. And I was like, all right, if I made a reflections token and took 1% of every trade and had that going back into liquidity or back into the holders, basically like what SafeMoon was back in the day, then I don't care if they make their little, 100 pulse off of it, as long as they leave 500 to everybody else. And it was kind of just a mathematical experiment. So it was like 60 pools. They were all burned. I launched it over about 2 weeks. I made it look like a scam just so people wouldn't buy it. And I kind of remember the last guy that sold like a fat bag right before I announced that it was me, and actually burned all the liquidities and did the things, which was pretty funny. But it's spread out pretty thin. It's, we're coming up on maybe 8 months for it. If we're coming up on a year, I was a little past launch, but like there's still 80% liquidity. Like it's still a fair launch for the most part. If you want a percentage, it's there. You just have to find a pool to get that much money into it. And
do you know what just a quick question for you. Have you calculated what the total TVL of your whole ecosystem is?
If I look at it, and like it started basically with 5 million pulse, which at the time was $500.
Wow.
And then it was $10 in 60 different pools. All those pools are worth like $5,000 now at least. The ones that have 0 real trades or anyone else has added. But I mean, there's almost 100,000 now just in the wrapped pulse pair that's burned.
Mm-hmm. And that's all just from the activity on chain without any humans involved, or was there some human adding liquidity to those? Or
yeah, there's a lot. There's over 500 pools. There's hundreds of people that have taken LP positions in supporting the project, and that's why like all of it went into the original LP, right? So 100% fair launch. I bought my own out of it, and I didn't think it was going to do that great. So I didn't, believe me, like I don't even have enough. Like I don't know who the top holder is. It's some teddy whale that bought earlier, like you know, and he's only got 3%, and I've only got a little less than 3%. So it's like, even if we sold into the chart, all we do is rock the reflections to everybody, and those tokens back into LP where they're purchasable again. Like, so it's an interesting thing because it is growing so fast with that 1%, and selling into it really does just help it. Like it gives those people reflections and puts them back in LP.
That's cool. Sorry to cut you off, Vets.
No, I'm just copying and pasting some links here.
Yeah, I did send out rig service and invite later, but I thought maybe we could well, I was going to say, so broad stroke approach, we'll come back to this. Broad stroke approach on Atropa, and I know a lot of people here want to know more about, you know, when it comes to the Atropa initiative and the P Maker Vaults initiative. I think for a long time there's a lot of confusion around, you know, is it the same dev? Is 414 Richard Hart, or, you know, what kind of connections can be made there? And recently the 414 dev allegedly comes out and puts his face on camera, and it's not Richard Hart. So it seems to me that Atropa and the deep net liquidity web is separate initiative from whatever kind of interactions the SAC or OA wallets is having with the P Maker vaults. And in addition to that, this is news to me as of like a couple of days ago. Apparently, there's an account on Twitter called Hextronaut that, and this is probably old news for a lot of you guys that's deep in the weeds on this stuff, but for me it was new, that there's an old engineer that worked on MakerDAO on Ethereum that appears to be a huge Hex fan, or Hex, that's in his Twitter handle. And one of the things that occurred on testnet and around mainnet launch was some governance changes to Maker, as Richard was one of the largest holders of DAI. And if I'm wrong about any of this, you can correct me. But so there's definitely, there are 3 players who have massive influence on this movement, and I think they're all, you know, allegedly you could say that they never talk to each other, but there's different pieces that you can pick up from old Richard Hart videos that he talks about someone that worked for NASA that was trying to help him build out CFD token and was good at math. And so you find out that this 414 dev is good at that. And then you find out all these things are happening to the MakerDAO contract before mainnet launches. And then this Spark, what's it called? Spark DAO, I think. That was all this other new innovation in collecting yield on DAI. And this is all kind of new to me. So if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me on things. But it seems like the pieces are being put into place to create a gigantic web of liquidity that is going to be in the order of magnitude of billions and billions and billions of dollars, first off, through Atropa. And secondly, that there's hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of value in terms of like PUSDC, the forked wrapped WETH being deposited into the P Maker vaults to collateralize them, so that we may get this potential outcome where the whole network's going to rise in value. And in that process, we could get the forked stablecoins to rise to $1 and then peg them with this huge overloaded, over collateralized amount of money in these vaults. Is that all sound like a general synopsis, or am I off on some of that?
I will say, for the most part, like, I'm very much a blockchain dig in, do your own research kind of guy. And somewhere in December, like, I kind of just got burned out. So I haven't done any of the research myself. However, you know, seeing kind of the same thing you see and the Twitter buzz and what's going on, like I said before, I see things in pictures, and like, I definitely see that being a big part of the picture. There's major liquidity there that's moving around. And for me, the high doesn't necessarily have to be $1. It just has to be stable. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that could go on with that. Looking back at the whole thing, I still see it as the entire forked airdrop kind of goes together. And like right now, DAI's in the lead with Wrap Bitcoin behind it, which is, you know, the center of all of crypto is the dollar bill and Bitcoin. Like, we're not getting away from that. And we couldn't, you know, that kind of goes back to like, why does Pulse the same price? It's like we went sideways for a year just to build liquidity, because if we moon and we don't have all these liquid bonds, then nothing moves with it, right? So like, if you look at DAI right now, we're let's just say for math, we're 200x. All right, 200x. If Pulse does a 10x, well, now we're only 20x, and there's only 1 million in Lick right now. I mean, we could push that thing 20x tomorrow. Like, you know, like, to get it there is super, super easy, and a lot of people would cash out, and there'd be a lot of price impact for a while, and it'd go up and down and do its thing. But like, you know, another thing, kind of going back on what you said there, I met up with 414 in person and had coffee back in like January, and yeah, that solidified a lot of the things that I needed to know, and kind of probably why I stopped even digging around. But definitely not Richard Hart. Super, super smart individual though.
So I agree with you on the premise that you know, let's say like PDAI could theoretically peg at a penny, and it would still be a stable unit of account, or it could peg at 50 cents, or it could peg at $1. The point is that the tools can be turned on at the right moment to peg this thing at whatever price. I just think it's convenient to get it to $1 and peg it there, because it's something that it's a unit of account that everyone's familiar with. And someone actually came to me today and asked me, you know, what's the chances of PDAI overshooting $1? And that's probably as good of a chance as it getting to $1. However, when it gets there, you know, I anticipate that there will be some profit taking along that route, but that the web will be so deep that with the ratio of how much PDAI is out there in the user supply versus the ratio of how much collateral can back that existing PDAI in the user supply, it's going to way outweigh the amount of downside sell pressure. And then if we know how MakerDAO works, when you have DAI, you can deposit it back into the vault and get the collateral backing. So as soon as it goes over $1, as soon as this function gets turned back on, and we start to peg, as soon as you go over $1, you could return those assets in, or convert them into the underlying asset that's on the other side inside the vault. So I think that's going to be partly how people will take profit if it does get to $1 and does go over $1, as people will just turn in the PDAI and convert it into whatever is in there as existing collateral. And what makes sense to me, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about today, was this theory of Richard Hart basically coming out June 30th of last year saying, you know, you can convert one pulse for one WETH because they're equal in their existence. So when we look at the forked wrapped ETH chart against the dollar, it looks something like this. Early on, there was a lot of volatility because the market was mispricing what the forked wrapped ETH actually was. But you can see that in terms of the overall price structure, this here does not look that much different than Wrap Pulse. I'll switch to Wrap Pulse now. It's the same, general structure. You had this SEC crash, and then the sideways movement, and this curvy thing. And then if I go back to the fake wrapped ETH, now you can see that it's generally similar structure. Okay. So now if I want to measure what the forked wrapped ETH looks like in pulse terms, this is what you get.
Right. And mathematically, they were imprinted that way at launch. And then I haven't actually seen it, but in that same tweet, Richard does say that there's a front end for it. You can trade the PWETH 1-for-1 with Pulse the same way you do Pulse for Wrap Pulse, where there's no loss or slippage.
So using this information, we could argue that theoretically, this forked wrapped ETH can be deposited into the PMaker vaults, and because it's convertible 1-to-1 for Wrap Pulse, the vaults can get more and more collateral as Pulse price rises. So the entire network rising in value is actually going to make the collateral inside those vaults increase in value without any additional liquidity being deployed into the vaults. But we're actually seeing that there's even more liquidity being put into the vaults at this time. So I think without 30,000 foot view, what's occurring here is the stabilization and the liquidity building period, as you said earlier, where the amount of value locked inside that vault is going to meet and exceed order of magnitudes of potentially hundreds of billions of dollars of value. And so that outstanding PDI supply currently, I think there's roughly, I want to say there's like 5 to 8 million in the user supply. There could be like as high as 10 million. There's 22 billion, sorry, B with a billion. There's 22 billion total. And maybe it's good to give this history lesson as well, which was that when Pulse Chain launched mainnet, you could actually go in there and mint PDI. And that actually happened where people were going in there and minting a crazy amount of PDI, and that function had to be shut down so that this didn't get minted into infinity. But because it was shut down, it's not a deal breaker. And so what we get for a supply of user supply is somewhere in between 5 and 10 billion, I believe. And the other half is owned by the OA, I believe.
So real quick, the difference between that and LUSD is it didn't get shut off on LUSD. So LUSD now is stable to the price of gas to mint whatever you could sell for a profit.
Interesting. That's new to me. So that explains why LUSD did this. Let me look at it against Pulse
Because
here.
you got to remember, all right, when we forked ETH, we forked everything on ETH. So every collateralized loan you can take over there exists over here, except for here, you have to use the forked one. So you can't just go buy Pulse out of a Uniswap V2 pool that was forked, but you can take your ETH, your wrapped ETH only, right? Because that's what is actual smart contract and on chain. All the ETH isn't there, just the wrapped ETH. So that wrapped ETH is now, like, this is one of the tricks of how everything goes, right? If WETH didn't hold Pulse value, then the world's biggest airdrop doesn't have any value, because the little tiny bit of fucking, oh, sorry, I don't mean to swear, the PWETH that's in there, like if it came from Ethereum, maybe it had 100 ETH in it, nice fat pool. When it's over here, that's 100 Pulse. It's nothing. So you can buy that whole pool and start that thing up for, under a penny.
Interesting. Very cool.
As PWETH gets more volume, all those pools will start to get a little bit of value. And as long as there's someone extracts a little bit and or makes a Pulse pool, then you'll get arbitrage between both of them, and both of them will sit there and just grow forever.
Mm-hmm. And so back to what we were saying earlier, PWETH will literally run in price exactly 1-to-1 with whatever Pulse is doing. So as Pulse goes up to like a penny and beyond, PWETH will increase in value as well, and this to the exact same ratio if it holds this peg, which theoretically it should, because they're convertible 1-for-1.
When I introduce people to LP, that's the LP I say go into. I say try and get as close as you can PWETH to Pulse, because your numbers will vary, price impact, price of where it's at, blah, blah, blah. But like, try and get 1,000 Pulse to 1,000 PWETH, put it in there, you put 2,000 in, and then you can just sit there and watch. And if your count next week is 2,010, that means you made 10 Pulse with no chance of impermanent loss unless one of these goes drastically wrong. And because
Thank you for that.
1-for-1, then it can't go wrong. Like, it is Pulse.
Yeah, that's cool. So so again, just to say what you just said, but another way, you guys, what he's saying, if you want to like experience and observe the phenomena of earning fees in the LP on PulseX, you pair WETH and Pulse together at preferably a 1-to-1 ratio. As you can see, some of these wicks, you could pair it slightly off, like fractions of a penny off. But generally speaking, you could put that in there and then watch your PLP grow. And then, yeah, that's a really cool educational tool.
So if you go to the V2 pool, I think that's got like 800K in it. There's a little more volume, but you know, if you get your little 0.01% of that volume, you can do the math to be like, oh, you know, this is going to make me a little something.
125K here. 787. I think this is it.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay, yeah.
So this is like, to get deeper into my ecosystem, I have a token called Meth Lab. It's the mini Ethereum lab, and it's set up in, I don't know, 100 or so different LPs to just constantly arbitrage and take a 1% from those arbitrage bots and pay out in PWETH. So it's basically like, you know, backdoor, back alley market pulse, and most people won't buy it because it's called Meth Lab. It's great.
It's a money printer that you just set it and forget it. And like, or do you talk much about like the tools you use to write contracts or any of that sort of thing? Like, do you talk about how you built your arbitrage bot, or do you kind of keep that under wraps?
So like I said, I don't actually have an arbitrage bot.
Yeah, we're going to work on that.
I made all these tokens to just take advantage of the arbitrage bots. And the way to look at it is like, and there's an exponential math, right? If the market cap's 10K versus 100K, then the difference between them putting $1 or $10, all they're going to do is put in X amount of pulse and make sure they make at least 100 pulse. And they don't care if they put $1 or 10 or 100 through there. That's their goal, right? They'll find that little disparity in between two pools and make that little bit. And that's their profitable trade. Even if they leave behind, say, 5,000 pulse worth, and that gets sent out to the holders in PWETH, making it so they're now just earning pulse and never have to sell the chart they're in, right? It's just an ongoing thing. So as long as the price of pulse versus any of these other pools changes, then it just arbitrages.
Cool. What do you think is the success rate, the chances of success, or the success rate of these stable coins pegging? In your, just a guess, based on what your meetings with the dev, 414 dev, and some of the things you might have gathered from that. What's your kind of take on that?
I mean,
people really want to know.
All these stable coins go to $1, but I will add that the 414, I don't think the intention there is to actually do that or help it. It's just, so 414, I think, saw the same thing that I saw, right? It was like, here's this thing of value with no value, but if we give it value, then it suddenly has value. 414 has had this in their brain for a long time and saw this opportunity and definitely took it. Like, you know, that was a chess move 6 years ago that they've just been waiting for, you know?
Mm-hmm. When you say they, who you're referring to?
Just anyone that was smart enough to realize what exactly this was. Right? Had I realized what these LPs were pre-launch, like that first week before we had prices, and it was just like, oh yeah, let's ratio trade everything, you know, like, man.
Yeah. That was a good point and a good learning lesson. So in regards to your reward, the RWDR ecosystem, so you broke down Meth Lab, mini Ethereum. If a person was to just buy one to try to garner exposure to the majority, to all the ecosystem, is there any one that you'd point a person to, or is that impossible?
The basis of the ecosystem is to make sure that the coins it's connected to, that those charts have some liquidity and some life and some volume. So the mini Ethereum lab has like 10 tokens under it. They all start with a little M, and there's like M Sol, M BNB, M whatever, M ETH. Mm-hmm. Those all reward from Ethereum tokens, right? So those have a peg and a price and real money. And then the rewarder ecosystem The main one, rewarder, rewards pulse, and then there's probably like 15 coins in there, and like 10 of those are like die R, and die R gives P die, right? So the rewarder side mostly gives P coins, and then there's like 5 of them that actually reward LPs. So you're actually getting a reward that's now auto compounding in an LP. So like die LP is a token that gives, I think it's like 2% rewards. It actually just gives you the E die, P die, LP in your wallet.
Just reading the comments right now, trying to catch up. Oh, you're muted, bro.
All right, so you made a little bit of a splash, and I think this thing's going to go off like wildfire. We have diehard PLS. What is the what is the general idea? So it says here, live free or die hard, 10% PDI rewards.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like everything in the ecosystem so far, like none of it's meant to be, it doesn't need anyone, right? The arbitrage is there, it does it on its own. Anyone that wants to join it can, and you know, they get their little piece of it. Literally with 80% left in liquidity in A1A and B2B, and like most of these tokens with 50% or more in liquidity, like they're all still super early, right? But no one wants a utility, no one wants a steady income. They're literally like
well, don't we know it from all the Hex EESs?
it's literally 30 coins where no matter what, with time and volume, eventually like everyone can leave the coin profitable. Like there don't have to be player versus player losers. But everyone likes meme coins, and DAI is hot, so I made this. And
yeah,
if anyone was around and remembers like the baby cake days, this is essentially the same thing. It's a high tax, but it's high enough that if you hold some, the rewards are good enough, you won't want to sell it. So nobody will want to sell it. And we went through and airdropped 50, 70, or 80 something influencers with public wallets. So every one of them has about $20 worth, which obviously is nothing now, but at a 10x or more, that becomes something. And if they pay attention to the rewards on what that gets, right, it's basically $20 at launch price. They'll probably have something to say about it because it's going to be good rewards, and they can decide to maybe, you know, talk about it or just ignore it, whatever. And if they sell it, you'll know who sold it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. Now, are you doing a meme competition with this specifically for Die Hard meme competition for this token?
Yeah, there's a post in there somewhere. We were doing some giveaway token airdrops for people making memes and artwork. It's you know, it's totally community. Like other than what went out in airdrops, pretty much everything else would go into liquidity. Probably about 80-ish% of the supply.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's beautiful. So for the kids at home, do you have a rough day that, because this is not launched yet, correct? Or publicly, so to speak?
Yeah, it's not. It'll be sometime in the next like 48 hours or so.
Okay, fair enough. 48 hours, peeps. Now, if
just shoot me a message before you hit the button, please.
Yeah, right. We love the insider trading. Yeah.
Well, that's why all the influencers, you know, if you're an influencer, and I also put in builders. If you're a builder on Pulse Chain, like, go find that tweet, drop me your wallet. Like, I'll give you the $20 because the $20 will print more DAI than if you believe DAI is going to.
You said it's 10% APR, right? Or you know, that's what it's based on volume, right? So right? What could that mean then? So, you know, during huge volume phases, you could be seeing incredibly high APRs from the taxation of it, which means that 10% is like the bare minimum.
Right? Like every $1 million, $100,000 is getting bought out of DAI and given to the holders.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Tracking now.
So cool. If that hits $1 million in volume, like that's pretty good rewards. And honestly, 100 grand, if this is about $1 million in volume, like that's good Friday.
You said it's 7,777,700. So I need at least 10% of the supply because I want 10 grand out of that, right? Out of that $1 million day.
So,
Yeah, dude, this sounds like a good idea. It sounds like almost got too much utility. It might not be able to call it a meme coin.
it's just it's something that nobody will want to sell, and it also right now I think there's only 1% to the dead wallet. I'm going to send another 1 or 2% so we can just burn die. Like I want to make this support that, and you know, it's just a little thank you to all of our builders and our influencers that have been here for a whole year. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a rough bear market, that's for sure.
Hey, man, it doesn't feel that rough. I mean, yeah, I get it. If all you did was, you know, have sacrifice for the main RH core coins, and then you haven't done anything or looked into anything or got educated, yeah, I could see how that would be pretty painful. But for anybody that got involved and played around and clicked buttons, I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and there's been so much opportunity. You know, the A1A chart, just the price chart of A1A on its own was such an amazing, wildly successful experiment, you know. And of course I've had my own experience like that too, being a founder, and you know, I encourage people that the best way to learn about this stuff is to get involved and create your own thing and see what it does, or at least just get a position in something like Sonny was saying about you know, put a position on an LP like the forked wrapped ETH versus PLS and watch that thing earn fees. I think it's a big difference between hearing someone talk about it, but versus you actually having skin in the game. It makes you learn faster. Someone did ask me if I could show the PDI dollar chart and how we could get to $1 by December, and so I will do that now. And while you guys kind of summarize that point.
Yeah, so I've heard, and I think even Maria / James talked about it. Maybe you guys discussed this in private as well. As far as hex parity, is that in the cards? You know, down the future potentially. Is it a long shot? Do you see is there a path with the way things are going and being created?
I'll say the same thing I always say. And basically that is, I was never exposed to hex. I was never in hex. Looking at it now, or looking back at it, like I see what the tokenomics were, and I see what the liquidity lesson was. The way it launched on a stablecoin and not on Ethereum, so it could be free, and then came down kind of on Ethereum, and then it was really interesting. And this isn't saying anything good or bad about anyone. I think a lot of people that got in hex maybe just got, you know, they got a good investment, but they didn't understand exactly what or why was happening.
Right.
And when Pulse Chain launched, hex was the liquid backing, and had all of hex just day one bridged over and paired with their free copy, they would be a huge liquidity chunk of this chain. And they would have just gone right with it, right? But they didn't, and only some of them came over, and some of them still don't, and some of them still this. So I guess like the end game for me is hex doesn't work if it's not at parity. So I think it'll go back to parity.
Interesting. You know, I'm an avid hex supporter. I've been talking about that publicly. That was my main squeeze for almost 3 years, and I have bought more eHex since the FUD and breakdown to be below 0.2 cents than I ever was able to buy in the previous 2.5 years, and so I think it's a tremendous opportunity. I think solutions will come, and part of Hex's short-term downfall here was because of the uncertainties around S-load changes in the future and price rises on Ethereum and GUI rises on Ethereum, and so you had like 3 different unknowns. You know, how high was ETH going to go? How high was GUI going to go during max activity periods? And would the ETH Foundation upvote the S-load costs again on us? And, you know, basically killing Hex. And because of those concerns, I think it was required that Richard forked the network to give it a life somewhere else. And I think this is just all growing pains, and I believe that at the end of the trail here, both of the hexes will not only retain tremendous value, but you know, if we pull off this this stablecoin, speculative stablecoin, and then we pull that off and peg that thing, the amount of available liquidity for hex stakers on this chain is going to be tremendous. And because of the model, how it's built out, it really incentivizes those longer term commitments to the system. And in order to get the high APR in unit terms, and imagine Pulse Chain in 10 years, it's going to be hyper competitive. A lot of the volatility by then will have been squeezed out. And the only real way to earn massive returns at that point, 10, 15 years down the road, will have been by ending, you're ending 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, your hex stakes that's making anywhere from 5 to 20x returns in crypto terms, which is tremendously hard to do for any trader. And so basically seeing all this coming and being forward looking about this and absorbing as many units as possible at the lows is probably the way to think about hex right now. And when you look at the relative price performance versus things like Pulse, PLSX, and Inc., it's so far beat down, especially against Pulse, that it seems almost like it's starting to be the contrarian play in the same way that Inc. was the contrarian play at 39 cents. And so, I guess, and then to address the parity argument, I don't see why parity isn't possible. And if parity doesn't occur, it's not required. But if it does not occur, at the minimum, the only way you'd be able to for the market to properly price the differences between EHEX and PHEX will be the cost to end stakes, which will be a dynamic, ever-changing variable. So and let's just assume that ETH gets their gas fees figured out, and that drops gas fees on Ethereum by 90%, and Pulse goes and does a 10,000x. Well, now you're back at equilibrium again, guys. You're back at equilibrium where Pulse did such crazy performance, gas is now expensive again. Ethereum reduces those gas fees by 90%, and then both ETH and Pulse inherit that code. And so what you end up with was a more balanced dual twin turbo engine, basically, where ETH and Pulse act like twin networks, and value will flow across them freely. And that's just looking at this more broadly, the world is going to be multi-chain. And, the guys with the biggest brass nuts are going to be the ones that have the most value on their chain in TVL. And this, on Pulse Chain, with this founder, with the backing he has and the smart people around him, the lawyers, the commitment to combating and overthrowing overregulation, it's a really good contrarian setup that makes a lot of sense coming off the back of the 10,000x on Hex. And technically the billionaire energy that's over here.
Yeah, and I don't personally rely on it. I just know that the guy backing this chain could throw $1 billion into it like it was nothing. So that's my lotto ticket. Otherwise, I'm not expecting profit from the work of others, right? Like, even when I say builders, a lot of people don't get it, but it's like, if you're providing LP on this chain, you're helping it build, like it includes you, it includes everyone. You just have to do it, and you're part of it.
Yeah, there's nothing but to do is to try it. And you've been a big advocate of people, just like your prime example from earlier. Just start small and come back in a day and observe the balances. Volume is key on something of that nature, especially when you're on the V3s where you can just claim your rewards, etc. Yeah, and maybe hopefully we can try to get rig service on Pulse Trends. Like I said in the beginning of this and in the beginning of the chat, I posted a couple spaces that he has recently done, and they're mind-blowing. He's done a ton of research on everything, and this stuff, he said it himself, like, this is 9D chess that RH has done and implemented, and he's working with big dogs over on the Ethereum side. They don't want to see a huge, I got a bunch of notes, they don't want to see a big outflow of Ethereum, right? So they have devised different methods and ways to funnel and bridge funds over. There's ways, you're going to see a bunch of different websites, and they can flip things back to create the tokens and burn them and mint them. There's a lot to it. You really got to listen to the spaces to wrap your head and comprehend everything around it. But
yeah,
it's
listening to that spaces on 2X, I was not able to absorb everything.
No.
However, it's true that, according to the spaces, it's apparent that it makes sense. You wouldn't want to shock the Ethereum guys or stop liquidity from flowing into Ethereum by shouting its demise when we are on the cusp of getting an ETH ETF. If anything, you want to kind of like Trojan horse big money to come into the space, buy into the ETH ETF, and then that can be our endless dollar liquidity source in the same way that Bitcoin now has that with its Bitcoin ETF. Mm-hmm. And then kind of underhandedly pass value off to other layer ones, like Pulse Chain. Yeah, that made a lot of sense to me. And the mechanics behind it still isn't clear to me, but it makes sense. And it's happening because of this, X maker DAO engineer who's a huge fan of Hex. So
that goes back to, I think, Hexanaut, right? He was one of the engineers, a former MakerDAO engineer. And he specifically, I believe, as the story goes, is that he created profitable, the automated market makers for the profitable stables. So for them to become a dollar stable. To Riggs, own words, it's like it creates an infinite money glitch, so to speak. And with the SDAI, and creating collateral, and earning maybe like 15% APY, like it's just it's a whole thing. He even used the words ecometric equilibrium. I found that interesting in that regard.
I'm trying to break that down and figure out. You know what that means, Sonny?
No, not offhand.
No, ecometric equilibrium. But does that mean that you're balancing the outflows of value away from Ethereum, but then there's enough inflows coming in that it appears as though the TVL is stable on Ethereum while Pulse Chain's TVL grows potentially? That's what that comes to mind. Using context clues here.
So, there was an aspect of where there's a huge chunk of funds that's not even accounted for because Ethereum knows that the outflow of that is coming over here at some point in time, but it's not even like listed on their side of it. So are either of you guys familiar with the different components of MakerDAO, the Spark and Blast? Can you guys break that aspect down? One's obviously like a savings account on that regard.
I'm gonna have to leave that one up to Axis if he knows, because
I'll pull up my screen. We'll just learn it together here. We'll just look at the website. So it says Spark is there's a landing page for a truly community-built DeFi infrastructure. You can deposit DAI and earn 13%. You can borrow DAI at 14% using ETH, staked ETH, or our ETH. This is basically a protocol to earn decentralized yield. And the actual mechanics of it, I'm not sure. Maybe I can dig in here a little bit and find out. But what was he saying? I think was his name Hayden, or no, it was Rig Service. What was he saying that the implications of this was for our chain?
Only positive, because these guys have all worked together on the back end. He's making RH is making the money grow. So besides potentially earning around 15% APY, you know, so DICE savings models, you know, ultimately they're going to be able to use as collateral in the vaults.
It says here you can expand your crypto holdings without sacrificing your exposure to the price exposure to ETH, for example. Interesting. It looks like there's a lending protocol, yield-bearing stablecoin, that's interesting. So it's a tradable DAI unit that's also it's backed by a treasury. So it's a value of $1 plus whatever it's got behind it in yield. Interesting. So it should actually be worth more than $1. Direct liquidity for protocols. Interesting. Maybe there's direct inputs. Yeah, this is very interesting. I was thinking about, was there a way to, I wish I knew this better, so I'd sound a little bit better about this, but you take this, you take your ETH, you deposit it in here. Now you still have your ETH, right? You have your ETH, and then you got the stable coin, and then you start earning yield on that. So you now have ETH, and you have the USD value of the ETH borrowed, and that's earning money. So you're earning money on something that's potentially appreciating in value. So theoretically, at big enough scale, hundreds of millions of dollars, you could be making you could be doing compound interest, right? The eighth wonder of the world. So to like the nth degree here.
Yeah, this is just silly.
And then the guy that made this, he's a Hex fan. Like how bullish is that? And the cool thing about all this, kind of zooming out a little bit, is like if in any event, if any one of these different, maybe 3 initiatives is successful, Pulse Chain is that much more valuable. If all 3, 4, 5 unknown initiatives, if they all come online and are successful, just imagine how valuable Pulse Chain is going to be. And because it will have first mover, and because we're working in the real world to get regulatory clarity on these things at the same time. So you're getting like 3 to 4 degrees of potential exponential growth of our chain. Unlike a lot of the other guys that is trying to innovate in ways that not to take away from some of the other innovation that's happening in crypto, but this here initiative is, as outlined, feels a lot like securing Pulse Chain as a central figure point in DeFi, and as a real good alternative to traditional finance, and that we can actually use cryptocurrency. Definitely other different from like Solana, where it's centrally controlled, it can go down. And it suffers from a lot of the centralization risks.
Yeah, so like with Pulse Chain OG's dropping, thanks for the hint, the reminder here. Like, you remember when you're on the first bond of liquidity, Ben was directing you to like copy like the last 5 or so numbers out of the contract and then paste that in Google, and that would pull up a website. Like, this is like next level shit that they're like hiding stuff, and to this point they're labeled as phishing sites, so no records being kept of them, but they can use these sites to, I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong things, but
so if I'm picking up what you're saying, thank you for that comment. If something's labeled a phishing site, it's hidden from the Google record, which is what you want. You don't, like, if we're trying to get away from centralization and Google and stuff, you want to get that false positive. I think we were even getting that with when the front ends for Pulse Chain, the bridge, the PLSX app, when they went decentralized on IPFS, we were getting the same situation to go down. Now that was a little bit too confusing and scary for, little Johnny and his little $1,000 sacrifice. So we had to fix that. But but it is interesting that in this case, you could basically hide the flow of funds out of Ethereum and into other blockchains. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and then even Spark Swap. We really should talk to the founder from Spark Swap. He's an amazing person and genius with what they're doing over there. And he's got a ton of experience. I think he comes from the BSC side. And we've had him on Randy's in the private group. And just, man, the guy is just really smart. And I really like the whole ecosystem. But what they're doing is they're also allowing the bridge for Ethereum DAI to switch over to SDAI. So that's another, avenue to bring in. So everyone's just working together, and we're just starting to see all the dots being connected. And that's why I continue to say, like, I am more bullish now than ever on this entire ecosystem. Like, it is the epitome, and it is the poster child of what true decentralized finance is. Just boom. I mean, prove me wrong, please. But
I think that's my favorite part of it, and I go back to sacrifice, and it's freedom of speech, it's freedom of movement, and we're not exactly the young pups in this game, but until you really understand and respect a dollar, it's hard to see what's actually going on in worldwide finance with crypto, right? It's not just a casino, even though that's why we all walked in the door,
That's so true. You get into crypto for the mad gains, and then you leave a convert, right? You're like, I'm not taking my money out anymore. I think at least that's my dream, is that we all kind of use crypto as it was intended.
I mean, and Pulse Chain for me, right? Like, I'm swing trade. I'm talking, 1 million transactions on wallets, manual, in and out, billions of dollars in volume to make, a couple $100,000. Like, it's stupid how much we go through. And now I'm in LP, like, man, I sleep like 8-10 hours a night. I don't worry about checking a chart. Like, I don't even care. It goes down. I make more in LP. Like, bring it,
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's absolutely beautiful. And you should be able to sleep at night, right? Like, damn, like, have fun and sleep at night. I mean, what the fuck?
It's so true.
It definitely spits in the face of the last comment on this. It definitely spits in the face of everyone who's fading the principles of HEX, because we're basically replicating that longer term investor mindset, because there's actual reward for sitting on your hands in some of this stuff. And you look at Sunny, you can create it yourself because it's so affordable over here. So yeah, I totally agree with all those comments.
Yeah. Fast Abdul, $2. They got a sacrifice going. What's up, man? Appreciate you. And again, these are all these like reminders. Apparently MakerDAO is being rebranded, and same with DAI. Like, they want it to be a meme aspect. So hence they're coming up with the names of like Spark, Pulse, Blast. Each chain will have their own DAI. Ether DAI, for example. Pulse chain will have the only DAI at some point once this all goes down. So everything that comes in, like, DAI is the man. DAI is the person. Like, you want in, you go through DAI. I mean, like, PDAI to $1. Like, fucking hey, man. Yeah. Just as much as holding the RH cores, PLSX and PLS and whatnot, man. I mean, I'm holding DAI. I'm holding some PDAI. Like, all this research and everything over the last 3-4 days.
Yeah, I mean, once PDAI pegs, then theoretically, if you wrote it from here up to $1, you're going to realize a 200 or 170x roughly. Or for some of you that got in earlier, like some of us got in a little earlier, it'll be more than 170x. And so some of that money is going to come in and pump the hell out of Hex, Pulse, PulseX, and Inc. It's just going to be how it's going to be, because not that there won't be ways to earn stablecoin yield, but the yield on the ink farms during peak in the bull, or like the yield on long-term hex stakes, a lot of the money is going to sink in there as those act like kind of like value sinks. Because once we've hit that ceiling of $1 and it pegs, and those mint and burn functions come back on, now the upside's limited on DAI. And so now what the next place to go would be, the RH core assets or some other group of assets. Like, we're seeing new ecosystems pop up all the time. And so that's also very exciting too. I'm always going to be a RH core believer. And like, if you're new, you just buy RH core assets and hang on, because it's going to be a wild ride, and you're going to realize a lot of gains, potentially 10s to 14,000 X's in Pulse. So, if PDAI's at max potential is 170X, and in that period of time, Pulse does a 300X, because PDAI pegs and then starts funneling into Pulse and Hex, and PulseX is why you're going to see the 14,000x. So yeah, man, just you know, it's going to happen in stages. Like I always say it's like playing on as a market maker, playing in an asset. You basically can think of it like a phalanx, and a phalanx is like in ancient Greece and Sparta. You know, you'd have like a line of soldiers with their shields in front of them, and they would lock shields and move a step forward, and then they'd lock down, and then they move a step forward, and they'd lock down. Atropa is doing that, and when you create price floors on charts, you're doing that, and you can expect that every time that you make a new level and you bring in adoption, the floor gets stronger and stronger and stronger, until of course we go parabolic, and then everything kind of cracks. But that's another conversation altogether.
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah, man. I know, Sonny, man. You get mad props. People are always, really appreciative, of everything you bring to the ecosystem and just doing your part. I want to just give a couple shout outs, and Axis can probably help me out here. Decentralize Me is definitely one that is a huge community contributor.
Yeah, his new video on how the PMaker vaults get collateralized and get to hundreds of billions of dollars, and how the peg occurs. He made a video, if you scroll down a little bit here, called Pegging for Dummies, and I would highly encourage people to watch this. This is a must watch to get just a foundational perspective on.
This is the work of Hodlonomics, Freedom 777, Coexistence 7, and
PDI.
99
Yeah, I can hear
Capital.
that.
I am now clear on how PDI gets to a dollar
Pause that.
and stays there.
All right, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's one that you're definitely going to want to check out. It's at D, the letter, and then starts with C. So decentralize me. And so go look at that, watch that video. I shared that with my private group right away after I learned that. It's amazing. And it really helped solidify some of the thoughts I was having, and gave me like a path. It showed me that there's a clear path forward for how this stuff can occur.
Yeah,
so thank you.
It's tremendous video. You posted that. That was in our group chat, our private paid group chat. Ricky Tick right away, and that's one of the benefits. Like everyone's out there in the verse, gathering information, right, and sourcing it and verifying, and then collectively, like we bring stuff back, we chop it up, chew on it, and maybe add it to the tool belt or not, or disseminate the good, the bad, the ugly out of it. But for a lot of people that don't have time, I find for myself being in such a group as Access and Randy's, and even Crypto Sloss, that it helps me with the limited time I have to get straight to the source and get facts, and with trusted community members that I rely on, and they rely on me, so to speak. It's two-way street, working together with everybody. Let's see here. Another person wanted to give a shout out to, the good old Hodlonomics. Man, he was even just giving some kudos to good old Sonny as well the other day. But this is another one that's just like throwing out mad. Isn't he out there creating his own pairs and tokens? And like, I think he just recently threw out a new one. Let's see. Was he the creator of the Costco hot dogs?
I'm not sure I can confirm that, but it's possible.
But just, another one I would highly recommend following. That's for sure, man. Just great.
One other guy that comes to mind in coordination with Hodlonomics was 99 Capital. He was one of the first ones to kind of help me understand what was going on a little bit too.
Can you put that in the private chat or whatever, or throw it in the YouTube? Obviously, you got Pulse Trends. So Pulse Trends is created, and I'll try to pull up that. TG group for that as well. But that's a really good Telegram group. So the person we're talking about, is it rig.service on Telegram? He's the owner of Pulse Trends Telegram group. Highly recommend amongst Sonny's pub as well. Jumping in there so you can stay in the know and up to date as all this comes about for sure. Yeah, just a lot of great individuals. Threw a lot of invites out. A lot of people are busy. A lot of things happening these days. And then so we got Sonny with the DAI hard PLS launching in 48 hours. That's going to be a good one. So if anybody's looking for something new, a new shiny object with a known founder in the community, he's always there. Like, you can search in the A1A group, Telegram group, his Sonny's pub group. Always there. And tell us about your community. Like, I mean, you have developed, some locals that like to hang around and support whatnot. Can you shed some light on your community within those groups, Sonny?
Yeah, definitely. Back when BSC was running, there was a whole lot of different groups, and it seemed towards the end there they all went private. And I was in a lot of the private groups, but it restricted us from meeting new people. And once, like myself, I was new until somebody called me out from creeping in a voice chat forever. And then when they were talking to me, they were like, wow, like, you really know your shit. And all of a sudden I was in private groups as their detective, just looking into contracts to see if the whales could ape or not. And it got me a lot of really good plays, but it kind of, it brought me into voice chat. And when I made Sonny's pub, I just wanted somewhere that was public, that anyone could come, so that I could come across and meet new people. And hopefully they can teach me and I can teach them, and we can all learn together. Because I've known since day one that I found crypto that there's more than enough money here for all of us. Like,
yeah,
it's fun to go on Solana and try and catch whatever and player versus player all day. Like, that's what I do when I need my fix. I go over Solana with a soul and I just play little 0.1s, like.
Yeah.
When it comes back to Pulse Chain, 90% of my portfolio is an LP, because I see the power there, and I don't need 100x from where we're at right now. I'm happy to support the system and make my little 0.25% of my percent of whatever I hold, and it's exponential, right? It just goes for a long time, and for me, I really think this first year was just building liquidity. The price was meant to go sideways and just pay out the liquidity providers.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. So yeah, so there's Pulse Trends. Recommend you guys get in there, join, tell them Bonded Liquidity II guys sent you over there, all that good stuff. We can start to close it out unless anybody's got anything else here, but this has been amazing, great conversation. And as Luna says, like, we are so early. And it's a beautiful thing to finally be in something early, right? Most people are always chasing, but yet here we are, because people have grinded and put in their time and believe. I mean, obviously we're here because we believe the man, RH, is doing right for the community. So not sometimes, but a lot of time you got to block out the noise, people. Make your own decisions. There's a lot of information here. You got to do your own research. You got to think for yourself in this crypto world. Crypto is not easy, but work at it and ask questions. And I remember like Wendy's for Tendies saying, it's good to have friends in crypto, because you can help each other out when you get jammed up in a situation or something's not working. And it's about developing relationships, etc. As well. So put your time in. Don't be jerks and dicks to everybody. Things don't always work out perfectly. People are trying their best. I think most in Pulse Chain have good intentions. You compare Pulse Chain to the rest of the chains out there, BSC, Ethereum, all the scams that are out there, man, we're doing pretty good. I mean, there's always 10% of everything, guys and gals and people. Just hang in there, keep your heads. Everything's going to be okay. You're seeing the bigger picture of the plumbing, and the foundation is solid. I mean, Pulse Chain foundation plumbing, if you want to use that analogy, is solid. Okay? Like, it's going to work out. It's here for the long haul. This wasn't easy. Just, oh, hey, get a copy and everything's here. Like, you got to think about the Ethereum ETF that's coming, all the millions and millions that are going to come over into Pulse Chain, but they have a system. They have a plan, and the plan is not to scare the Ethereum peeps as institutionals are coming in. So they're going to eventually, hopefully, pop over here where it's cheaper and park their money, let alone RH is just doing his thing. So enough of me rambling on. I think that's the big play. I'm excited and super bullish for everything. I thank everybody for their time today. Where can everybody find you at? We'll start with Access.
Yep. Come I got stuff on x.com/axisALiVE. Obviously, some of you guys are watching on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/axisALiVE. And then if you want to know more about a lot of the stuff we talked about today, getting edge in the market, connecting, most importantly, networking with other high-level players in the space, go check out axisalive.com. We just saw one of our members launch a token called SolidX, and that thing did 1,000,000% in 24 hours, and it's now got over $1 million of TVL on 9-inch, and it's doing like $1 million a day in volume. So we're here to stay. We're here to provide value to our users. The Axis token is doing well, and it's now hitched a ride on the SolidX train. So, we're here to provide value and show you the opportunity, but it's up to you to take it. So thank you guys for listening in, and I hope you all learned something.
Yeah. So are you saying you created an LP with SolidX?
If you look at PulseX, there is a pair between SolidX and Axis. I think it's like 100,000 or something. So it's not the biggest pool for Axis, but there is a connection there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. And then, yeah, so just real quick. So that's SolidX, which launched. Damn, they're up to $1 million in liquidity. Wow. That's something.
Yeah, my whole comment is, swim with the whales. If you can't beat them, join them. If you find the right one, you could hitch a ride and it can change your life. So, yeah. Amazing opportunities out there on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, for sure. Sunny Detective, Mr. 420. Where can people find you at?
The pubs, Sunny's Pub V2 on Telegram, Twitter's Sunny Detect 420. If there's anything to say kind of to people listening, Pulse Chain's a little bit different, and much like a video game, you really just need to understand what your buttons do, where they're at, how to do things. And once you can do that, you can kind of start leveling up and going through the motions. As far as being early, like, there is no end to this. There's your entry. And if you get in now, there's things here that literally will just pay for life. So definitely check it out, but learn how to push the buttons and understand what and why you're doing things rather than following other people and blindly aping.
Yeah, definitely.
I got one more thing to say, and I'm typing it in as the cost to experiment and fail on Pulse Chain is so low, you might as well try it. Like, don't ape with your bag. Use 1% and play around with these things so you get comfortable. Because
I recommend take 100,000. That's $10 or whatever. Lose it. Like, go lose it in an LP. Just experience it, because then you know how to add to LP, remove from LP. Like, you have to experience the video game,
100%. It's like trying to watch video games on Twitch and then you think you're the GOAT. Like, yeah, that's not how that works. You got to actually play the game to get good.
We all played Mario level 1 20 times until we got to get to level 2, and then man, we got to save it at level 2 for when we got home from school. Like same shit, different game.
True that.
Still imaginary coins though, and it's why our generation does pretty well here.
Yeah, I think of them as, I think cryptocurrencies are more physical than physical things, like the impact they can have on people's lives. What do I mean by that? Cryptocurrencies have physical properties, and then they also inherit all the best properties of digital assets that are digital properties as well. That it's immutable, global, instant, but also finite, scarce, and can have crazy tokenomics built in. And this is literally life-changing stuff. I was actually driving home from the very ever first Hex meetup with my buddy, and he's a old Halo pro, so as I was, video game stuff, but we both found cryptocurrency separately and then reconnected a couple of years later, and we were talking about how, riding a wave on a cryptocurrency, an exponential curve to the upside in a bull market literally changes your life, and your life starts moving exponentially. Even in your mind, the synapses in your mind, and like absorbing new information and reformulating and seeing the world in a different way. Bitcoin did that for a lot of people, but now DeFi is taking it to the nth degree. And I can just say that as you acquire more in crypto and you go on that exponential curve, it changes you too. It's like anybody who goes out into the world and like opens a business that becomes very successful, that changes you too, because there's certain requirements to make it to that level. Crypto is no different, and I just encourage everybody to jump in and have a good time, and grow doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, if you guys would, man, if you guys like this, appreciate it. Jump around, share the likes and the shares, and please subscribe. Trying to get this channel, Vets in Crypto, on YouTube over that threshold. We're all about raising money for charities in the most decentralized manner as possible. More things to come. Anybody that wants to get into an LP, and we have the Vets token that's out there. You can also pair it up with that and show some support that way. We're taking sponsorships. We do have a public address. You'll see it on the homemade outro. So that's fully transparable, creating a 501(c)(3) organization as well. So everything's above board, and that's the goal, is to pay it forward to like Travis Manion, Tunnels to Towers, those type of organizations, EOD, Wounded Warriors, things of that nature. So appreciate everybody's help and support. If you can just click that silly subscribe button, greatly appreciate it. Everybody, thank you very much. This has been Bonded Liquidity II. There's going to be a 3, and
the end game. How do we get there?
Man, the end game. I'm loving it.
Hopefully, hopefully we get everybody that missed this one to come into the next one. We'll plan it out a little ways, and we'll get all the I don't know, what do you call them, the LP goats all on the same stream.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure. All right, kiddos. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, Vets. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Sonny. Greatly appreciate you, man.
Cheers, guys.
Until next one, peoples.
There's so many scams. I have to change my username. Don't ever send me money. Imposters everywhere. Richard Hart, bracket. Don't ever send me money. Imposters everywhere, bracket. That's fucked up, right? But I'm out there actually making an effort trying to stop the fucking scams. Everyone else is like, oh, fucking that Richard, yeah, he's a scammer.
Call it a scam, nobody really cares. We can tell you the only one that ain't prepared. Oh yes, I'ma be a millionaire. 5, a couple trillion shares. Oh no, I ain't getting wrecked again. Richard Hart, he got us set to win. We're a family, we all the best of friends. We ain't a cult, man, just call us Mexicans. ICOs, pump and dumps, they always try to take you. Buy low, sell high, I'm tired of your fake news. You need a token, you broken, you...
There's so many scams. I have to change my username.